Some people say this was created by a man 10 times smarter than Einstein, and that you can shoot the wings of a back of a fly at 300 yards with your eyes closed, and they had to hold back on technology used to create it because the world wouldn't be ready for it. Of course, I am talking about the brand new FX Panthera. Right, the FX Panthera. Panthera. Some people pronounce it differently. I say the FX Panthera. It took me a while to get my hands on one, and finally it's here, and I'm really excited for it. Most of you probably know all the details, what there is to need to know about it, because Matt Dubber already made a very nice video when it was launched, going over all the features and what is actually the real purpose of the FX Panthera. But with every gun that passes on my channel, I gotta do a proper unboxing, of course. Maybe I can tell you something new, something extra, and give you some more close-up details of the different parts of the FX Panthera. So, first thing we gotta do is open up the box and see what's inside. So, the FX Panthera comes in this nice hard case with 4 latches to open it up, of course. And it comes in this nice foam cutout with some extra cutouts. Like you have an extra one to put this extra bottle, because the Panthera has a 300cc carbon fiber bottle. You get an extra cutout right here to maybe fit a moderator. There are some cutouts to put some tins of pellets or slugs, of course, because this is a purpose-built slug gun. And then what else you get in the box is a nice detailed owner's manual. In the owner's manual, it has very much all the information you need to adjust your Panthera, to see how the magazine is filled, to how the quick tune system is set up, how to adjust your regulator. Very nice detailed owner's manual for your FX Panthera. What else you get in the box is a magazine, of course. This is a 22 caliber mine, so you get the traditional magazine like we can find on the FX Dreamline, the FX Maverick, the Wildcat and the Crown, except for one big difference, and that is the lid on the magazine. FX made the Panthera so you can shoot also some longer 40 grain 22 caliber slugs, and they have widened the magazine well, where the magazine fits, of course, to accommodate for those bigger slugs. So the lid on your magazine is a little bit thicker, like we see on all the other traditional magazines from FX. They still load the same way, they're exactly the same, except for the lid that is a little bit different. Now, you can use your Maverick and Wildcat and Dreamline magazines if you replace the cover with the cover that is meant to be used with the FX Panthera. Probably there are some people that will start printing, 3D printing those covers, but I believe FX will also be providing them as extra for sale, of course. So, that's the magazine. And what else you get in the box is, of course, the female Foster fitting, typical from FX that you get with any other FX gun that you buy, but probably you maybe already have thousands of these lying around in different shapes and variations, so you can use this one or one that you already have by yourself. That's about everything you get in the box. That's your owner's manual, you get a magazine, and you get a female Foster connection to fill up your FX Panthera. And of course, the only thing that's left is the FX Panthera itself. So let's take it out of the box, put the box to the side, and have a closer look at all the features the FX Panthera has to offer. And so here it is, my 700mm Panthera in 22 caliber. Now, the FX Panthera is also available in a 500, 600 and of course 700mm configuration, as you can see it right here. It's a purpose-built slug shooter, specially aimed to shoot some PRS and NRL kind of style competitions. I still have to dip my first feet into those kind of style of shootings, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's really something different, it's a little bit more dynamic than just shooting from the bench. Now, it's also available in 177, 22, 25 and 30 caliber, if I'm not mistaken, and various different lengths of barrels like the 500, 600, 700 millimeters. I believe the 600 and the 700 millimeters are always equipped with a heavy liner specially aimed for those slugs. And the 500mm, I believe, still has a normal liner inside because it's more aimed for those pellet kind of type shooting, but still you can also upgrade it or use it as a pellet slug shooter, of course. I already went ahead and mounted an Element Optics Titan on top of it. Really beautiful scope. It's the 3x18 first focal plane sitting in some Element optic rings. Perfect for those kind of style of shooting because you have a big range of elevation on this turret, on this FX or this Element Optics Titan, of course. There's a lot to talk about on the FX Panthera, so let's do it step by step, gradually, go from the back all the way to the front and address all kind of features the FX Panthera has to offer, of course. So let's get started. Right, so starting at the back, we have a nice rubber butt pad. At first looks, it doesn't look very special. It is made from a nice rubber. It has a great feeling into the shoulder, but by loosening up the two screws you have right here, you can adjust it for length of pull. You can even cant it a little bit upwards, downwards to fit even better into your shoulder. And with a small screw hidden inside the rubber butt pad at the back, you can loosen the screw and even adjust it up or down, which is pretty cool for a standard on this kind of setup. Right underneath your butt pad, you have a T-slot rail that you see right there, which probably can mount some kind of bag rider or some kind of accessories that will be made by third-party companies like Sabre Tactical and Crawford and Lipped or so. Right here, just in between the screws to adjust the butt pad or butt stock, however you want to call it, you have a dust cover. Underneath the dust cover, you have a male Foster connection to fill up the 300cc carbon fiber bottle, which is located at the back of your Panthera and which is a first for FX. The male Foster connection can also be relocated right underneath where we know it from the FX Impact. Just here you can swap it out just as you want underneath the new dynamic block. This by itself is a hint that there will be many different variations with this new dynamic block by FX Airguns, of course. Now, the reason why FX has located the bottle at the back is because the design philosophy for the Panthera was aimed at that PRS NRL kind of type of shooting to create a more slimmer front end, so it's much more easily maneuverable in different obstacles at the shooting stage. I've seen many comments online of people complaining about the shot count, that it's not high enough and it's not typical FX on the FX Panthera and the shot count is not high enough. But FX wouldn't be FX if they wouldn't have think ahead with this new dynamic block. As I mentioned, for now, the FX Panthera is aimed for PRS and NRL type of shooting. They aimed for a very high power because it had to compete with 22 NRL kind of power. It had to be more maneuverable so you can get it in and out of barricades. It had to be very well balanced and all kind of that stuff. But I already have seen pictures online and FX wouldn't be FX, as I said. The new dynamic block allows for a lot of customizability. For instance, I've seen pictures, if you remove the front rail and the barricade stop here, you have access to mount even a very big bottle at the front. You can remove the bottle at the back, you can have two small bottles. There are going to be a ton of options with the new FX Panthera in the future. But for now, it's the PRS one right here, and in my opinion, it really looks cool. Then, just above the 300cc carbon fiber bottle, we have this big piece running from the back to the front, which of course has the channels inside to transfer the air from your carbon fiber tank all the way into the new dynamic block. By loosening the two screws you see right here, we have a nice cheek rest. This cheek rest can be adjusted in height, as you can see, to get your eye perfectly in line with your scope. For the lefties out there, you can also reverse it to the other side by just replacing this little part inside to the other side, and then you can flip your cheek piece around. This, in combination with the cocking lever, which is also completely reversible to the other side, makes from the FX Panthera a completely ambidextrous rifle. Now, at the moment, there is a cover plate on the left side for me because I'm right-handed, but if you switch it around, you can also switch the cover plate to the other side to cover up that hole, keeping all dust and debris out of your action, which is pretty cool. And FX has listened to the lefties and created now a completely ambidextrous FX Panthera at the moment. The feel and the reach of the cocking lever is exactly the same like you have on your Impact, so it will be very familiar for those who already own an Impact shooting this. Also, the cocking lever has a retainer to keep the bolt open when you're transitioning, for instance, between those NRL, PRS kind of style of stages, and not by accident pushing your pellet probe forward, pushing a pellet into the breech, double loading, causing all kind of troubles. So it's a nice feature that it has this bolt open retainer. It can be adjusted, it can be removed, so you can still have the same feel like you have on your impact, but you can also adjust it to your liking, to how much retaining force it should hold. Then right underneath your cocking lever you have still the same thumb style safety, which can be easily flipped over, and underneath the thumb style safety we got the grip. Now FX, at least on my version, they went with the grips from Ergo, and it's not really your traditional grip. A traditional grip has a little angle to it, but this is a zero angle by Ergo. Ergo, for me, they make one of the best grips out there. They've got a nice palm swell for me, and the zero angle also allows for enough room between the bottle and the grip to place your hand. The zero angle grip is also preferred by most of the PRS style shooters, so that's why they went this way. Then at the heart of our dynamic block, or a little bit at the bottom of our dynamic block, we have the trigger group. The trigger group will be for many very familiar from the FX Impact, with the same adjustabilities in the way how you can angle the blade. You can move it a little bit forward, backward, up and down, with very much the same feel as the FX Impact. We all know the triggers from FX are phenomenal, and the one on the FX Panthera is no different. Then let's quickly turn it around, and on the other side you can find the same quick tune system like we have on the FX Impact M3, with the macro wheel, which is adjustable in a 23 position, and you also have your micro wheel, which is adjustable by rotating it with your thumb. Very easy to adjust and no tools required. Right in front of the trigger guard, on the left side of the Panthera, you have two nice angled Wicca gauges, which should be pretty accurate. One to monitor your bottle pressure and one to monitor your regulator pressure. Always nice on display for the shooter to keep an eye on the regulator pressure and the bottle pressure while they're shooting. Now, talking about regulators, the FX Panthera has just one regulator instead of two, like we know from the FX Impact M3. But the Panthera, anyway, in this setup, will be only operating at a higher regulator pressure, and a second regulator would only make stuff more complicated to operate, so it's not really necessary on the FX Panthera. But since the new dynamic block is so versatile, I wouldn't be surprised if there will be every version with this dynamic block with a separate a second regulator added for a dedicated pellet shooter or whatever. The regulator inside the FX Panthera is the AMP regulator, like we know already on many FX Airguns, but this is also the one with the brass piston inside. The location of the regulator, or the adjustment for it, is in the trigger guard, like we know from the M3 as well, but with the M3 it was just behind the trigger, and it was always a little bit cumbersome in order to adjust it. You had to pull the trigger just a little bit in order to get your Allen key inside, but on the Panthera it's now located at the front of your trigger guard, where there is a lot more room and very much more easily accessible to adjust it. Now, before moving forward, you also have on top of that dynamic block a Picatinny rail, which has a 20 MOA cant in it, and in combination with the Element Optics Titan, like I have right here, which has a big elevation range, I don't need any adjustable mounts as well, and I can just go with the standard or stock Element Optics rings. Now, there is one just small catch. You have to make sure that your rings are high enough in order to fit the magazine underneath your scope. This one has a 34mm, so it made it all a little bit challenging, but in combination with the cheek riser and the adjustable buttstock, I could all make it just fit. It was very tight, but I could just make it fit. You will also be needing some scope mounts, separate scope mounts, a two-piece scope mount, not a one-piece, because the magazine slot runs right through the Picatinny rail, just like we have seen on the FX Crown, for instance. But with one exception, is that magazine well is about 2mm wider to accept those longer slugs and those bigger slugs with that wider magazine as well. Talking about the magazine and the probe that is feeding your pellet or slug, probably most mainly slugs, into your barrel, they now have a different kind of pellet probe. Normally we had the standard pellet probe, like we know from FX many years. We had pin probes for slugs, etc. but now they have a pellet probe which has a dedicated, more rectangular cutout slot in the pellet probe in order for that maximum airflow through the barrel, pushing that slug at the speeds that we want. Then we come to the dynamic block itself. The dynamic block completely redesigned from the ground up, and still something I know very little about, but I will already try to explain what I know. The dynamic block now has a completely new valving system inside, something we have never seen on any other FX airgun, and it's with a very short impulse valve. The very short impulse valve, what it allows to do is be very much more consistent and a lot more efficient with air as well. I've seen already videos and posts out on very social media with very tight extreme spreads, very consistency, really awesome. So whatever they're doing there is pretty awesome. Then with the big advantage or big difference, the plenum on the FX Panthera, normally we know it with the impact at the back right there or with the crown built into the action block itself, but on the Panthera, and I believe it's the first one in the world, they have wrapped their plenum around the barrel. With the consistent pressure in the barrel, in the plenum, let's say, with the barrel running through it, creates for a very solid FX Panthera. And since the pressure is constant in the plenum, there will be no deviation in point of impact as well. By having the plenum here at the front wrapped around your barrel and the short impulse valve, the amount of travel, the distance the air has to travel to get behind the slug is very minimal. I don't know how to explain it, I've seen a few pictures, but the air is just there. The valve opens and the air immediately is behind the pellet or slug. Which was in other cases with the plenum right here, the air had to travel through different sections with very sharp angles in weird ways to get behind your pellet or slug, creating some turbulence and stuff. But by having your air just here at the front in your plenum with your very short impulse valve just behind your pellet, they can achieve some amazing stuff there. But as I say, I still have a lot to learn about it, so more on that to come. Now talking about the plenum. When you buy your FX Panthera, you have the option to choose between a 500, 600 and 700 millimeter. According to the length you have chosen, also the plenum will be optimized for that kind of barrel length. For instance, the 700 millimeter one will run just to about here, 600 millimeter a bit shorter, and a 500 of course also a little bit shorter. They have optimized it for the barrel length, and FX also states that it's not user interchangeable or not easily to be swapped out by the user to get a different kind of barrel length and calibers. That is probably only be done by a licensed FX dealer. We will see in the future if there are gonna come some conversion kits out, and if they do, I will be definitely making a video on how to convert your plenum size. Now, moving a little bit forward, I've covered most of the stuff at the back, including the plenum. I mentioned the plenum stops about right here. You still have a piece of shroud all over your barrel, just like this, running from here to about here. It's a little bit thicker in diameter than what we know from FX. Normally the shrouds are a little bit thinner, I think about 30 millimeters. These are 34 millimeters, so you still get a little bit of integrated suppression or suppressor sound dampening level with this shroud, of course. All the way at the front of your shroud, you still have this knurled knob that you can undo, which uncovers a 1.5 UNF, so you can still connect your favorite moderators to it, to your liking, to quiet it even more down. Then, right underneath the barrel, let's look at what makes up the chassis for the FX Panthera. Here at the back, we have what I think, is a barricade stop, which allows you to push your rifle into a barricade without damaging or protecting your dynamic block, of course. Right on top of that, you have a very nice long ARCA rail, and by removing these two parts, I've seen on social media, you have access to two openings, or at least one opening, where you can mount then that extra bottle if you would like to, which brings a very bright future for the dynamic block that's now on the FX Panthera. So you have the barricade stop, and you have a very nice long ARCA rail, complete ARCA from back to the front to mount all your various ARCA connections, of course, and you also have some threaded M4 holes to mount other various accessories as well. Along the side and the bottom, you also have some M-lock rails to attach some various stuff like balancing weights and things, so you can balance out your FX Panthera and makes it very suitable for that PRS kind of style of shooting. At the front, on top of this, which is removable by I think about 8 screws, you have this nice bracket at the front where you can mount additional stuff with M-LOK, or you can mount maybe some night optic vision in front of your scope when you want to get out at night and do some hunting with it, which probably it will also be very suitable for. So guys and girls, I think that's everything what I needed to cover about the new features of the FX Panthera. And if you're still sticking with me, which is probably already a long video, thank you for keeping up with me. The FX Panthera, it has a very bright future, I think. When I was setting it up, mounting my scope, it was a very familiar feeling to my FX Crown, which is probably my most beautiful and most comfortable air rifle to shoot. And the FX Panthera made me very familiar with that, thanks to the adjustable cheek piece, adjustable butt pad, the action in the middle, and not being a bullpup, it really gives that rifle kind of feeling. Setting it up just the way how I like it to be an extension of my body, which is always a good thing what you want when you're shooting. The new dynamic block by FX, it has also a very bright future, I think. We'll see many different variations with that dynamic block and the new technology inside in some very different models to come, which is also pretty awesome, and I'm really looking forward to it. Now, stay with me, or don't forget to hit that notification bell, because this is just my unboxing of the FX Panthera. I just have it a few days. I have to travel for work the next coming few days, but then the weekend after I will be filming my first shots with the FX Panthera, which I'm really looking forward to, of course. As always, I ask you, don't forget to like, subscribe, so it keeps me motivated and my channel growing. I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you back in the next one. Bye.